Hi everyone, for today's video, I'm going to be talking about these two blushes from Givenchy. It is their Prisme Libre blushes, and I have actually been enjoying them. And truth be told, I actually did a first impressions vlog yesterday for these two blushes, and after I have checked the footage, unfortunately the audio was not good. So that's why I'm here again today creating this vlog for us. So this vlog for these two blushes is not going to be a first impressions kind of a video because I already did that yesterday. So instead, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to talk to you guys about the reasons why I actually fell in love with these. Now, truthfully, because I have just also recently vlogged about the Prisme Libre powders, link down in the description box. Well, let me just say that I really enjoyed these powders, and I said to myself, if the quality of the blushes are going to be the same as the powders, then it's going to be a no-brainer for me. And true enough, that is actually how I feel. So let me just go through the motions again of why I love these powders, like, as we go through the video. Okay, now I only have two colors with me. We have the color number 2, this is in Taffetas Rose, and number 3, Voile Corail. Now, the main reasons why I only got two blush colors is because how many blushes do I really need in my collection? Truthfully. And although now, after I've made the video yesterday, I said to myself, ooh, I should have gotten two more other colors max, because I actually do love using powder blushes, because to me, powder blushes, like, in the loose form, is actually very easy to manipulate on the skin, and you can really create the intensity that you want by building on the color. And although I don't have a lot of, like, loose blushes in my collection, I only have one, and it's actually this Tonoko powder from the Japanese brand Mitsuyoshi, and I actually love this. So when I'm actually, like, purchasing makeup products, I try to think if, one, I'm going to be able to use them, second, if I could afford it, because these babies cost, like, 58 euros per blush, so it was a little bit, high and very, very pricey. So again, as I've said in previous videos before, money doesn't grow on trees, and when you buy makeup, you have to make sure that what you get is going to be useful for you and it's going to be cohesive with everything in your collection. So anywho, the Prisme Libre blushes from Givenchy come in 6 wonderful colors, and I'm going to insert a screen capture here of the Givenchy blushes from the Sephora France website, because that's where I bought it. So let me just get my laptop. Okay, so the Givenchy Prisme Libre blush powders come in 6 shades, and the first color here is called number 1, Mousseline Lilias. So it's a very cool tone pink, and the main reason why I didn't get that is because this Tonoko powder from Mitsuyoshi is also a cool tone pink, as you guys can see. So I don't need doubles of, like, almost the same shade in my collection. Okay, and the next color that we have here is called Taffetas Rose. That's number 2, and that is what I have here. So it's a much more deeper kind of a blush color. It's like, it has a hint of warmth on it, so that's why I like it. And then the next color that we have is called Voile Corail. This is number 3, and this is the color that we have here. So it's a very orangey, warm blush color, so it's actually very pretty. And then the next shade that we have is called Organza Cien. So it's a much more deeper blush shade, and it actually has more red pigments in it, which is actually very, very pretty. But then again, I'm not, like, really interested in getting reddish tones of blushes, because I can always use lipstick for that. Okay, and then the next shade that we have here is called Popeline Violine. So if we look at the color on the website here, it actually has a very nice, purplish shade. It has a very nice coolness to it, but it also has some warmth into it. This is actually one of the colors that I wished I got, but at least I know that there's something that I'm looking forward to if I'm going to go and travel again, because I'm not too sure yet if these blushes are available on the Sephora Philippines website, so I'm going to check that out later. And the last color that we have here, which is currently out of stock on the Sephora France website, is called Flanelle Rubies, and it has a very nice, very poppy or red shade. If you are someone who has a very deep skin tones, it would look amazing on you. That's for sure. So these are the 6 colors of the Prisme Libre blushes from Givenchy. Now, the two colors that I have here, Taffetas Rose and Voile Corail, are the only shades that I got, mainly because, when I was going through the Givenchy kiosk in Sephora, I said, ooh, um, they look very pretty, but I'm just really controlling myself because I'm really scared that if I buy something and it doesn't work for me, especially when you're playing around with them for the first time, you have a total waste of product in your makeup collection. And the colors that I got were the colors that I was so sure that I was going to use with my clients when I go to work. Okay, so let's talk about these blushes one by one. Alright, so this is Taffetas Rose, and just like the powders, you actually unscrew the lid and you have a velour puff here that you can actually remove. And there are some people who actually use this to apply the color into the cheeks, but I really don't like doing that because the velour puff here will absorb the base, your foundation or your natural oils from your skin. And then I'm sure a lot of you doesn't clean your sponges on a regular basis, and then you'll just return it back here and you're going to contaminate your powder. So that in itself will lessen the longevity of your powder. So if you are like me, use a brush instead because at least it's going to be more sanitary that way. Okay, so anywho, so this is how the color of this Taffetas Rose blush look like. So these two tones here are actually very cool toned pinks, lilacs and lavenders, which is actually perfect. And then these two colors here has a hint of warmth in the pink pigment. So at least when this in my head, when you apply these colors into the cheeks, it's going to be a very nice robust color. It's not going to be too light, but it's just going to enhance your skin tone and just add a nice pop of color. Okay, so I'm gonna swatch the color now on my arm so that we guys can see how it looks like. So let me just be very careful in pouring out the product. Okay, so this is the consistency of the powder. So as you guys can see, it's very powdery. So let me just press my finger all over the powder blush here, and this is how it looks like on my fingers. As you guys can see, it doesn't get really mixed properly, so if you are like me who's very nerdy about makeup, I would have to transfer this powder that I ejected into the cap here into a palette and then mix it using my spatula. But anywho, so let's try to swatch this color first, and I'm just going to press it lightly here on my arm, and this is how it looks like. So it feels a little bit chalky because of course this is not how you actually apply the product, but I'm just doing this so that you guys can see what the color actually looks like when swatched on the skin. So let's just blend it out a bit. So as you guys can see, you can see the very nice rosy tones here, and the lilac-y colors, the lavender colors are also popping up. And it also looks very nice on my skin, so I can't really wait to see how well this will look on my face. Alright, and the next color that we have here is called Voile Corail, and it has a very nice vibrant orangey shade. So as you guys can see here, these two colors have a hint of red in them, so this is the one that's going to give a pop of color into the cheeks, and these two colors have some yellow in it, so this will add a very nice warmth into the skin. So it's actually a very pretty color. I love this. Now, one thing though that I have to say about these blush products is that it's like they're Prisme Libre powders, wherein it actually feels very smooth and silky to the touch. It's actually quite amazing, and it actually feels very luxurious. So I feel like I'm actually getting my money's worth for these two blush products. Now, one thing that I have to say with the packaging of the Prisme Libre blushes is that the cover is actually very different from the powders, where in the powders here, you have this almost lacquered kind of a lid. But here on the blushes, it's actually mirrorized. So at least it differentiates itself from the powder. So if you have these two packaging on your table, you know which is which. And also one other thing, the color of the blush is actually reflected on the logo that you see see on top of the lid. So for example, for this one, for Voile Corail, it's actually orangey, and then for Taffetas Rose, it's actually very pinky. So at least that will really help you to differentiate which blush is which. So just make sure that you don't interchange the lids with your Givenchy Prisme Libre blushes, especially if you have a multitude of them in your collection. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to apply some foundation, concealer, and powder, and then I'm just going to zoom over it so that it doesn't eat up so much of your time. And before I apply some foundation, I do have to say one other thing, that I actually talked about these two blushes in my recent travel haul. So if you're interested to see that, I'm gonna put a link down in the description box so you can go and check it out. Alright, so let me start and put on some foundation, and if there's anything you need to know about everything that I am using on myself today, it is all listed in the description box. Alright. So my foundation is down, I'm also powdered, and I also have some brows on, so which is actually perfect. So at this point, I'm going to show you guys why I love using these blushes. So the first color that we're going to try is this Taffetas Rose color, and this is the color number 2 with a very pinky shade here. And the reason why I picked this up is because I knew this will work very well with skin tones like mine, and especially if you have green undertones in your skin, a pink blush color will always work for you no matter what. So what I like to do is that I pour the color into the cap here, and I get a very nice fluffy and airy brush like this FO3 brush from the Chikuhodo FO series. And as you guys can see here, it's actually very airy, but there's a little bit of density here and strength in the belly, because the thing is, when you're working with loose powder blushes, you need a brush that will actually hold on to the pigment, deliver the pigment nicely into the cheeks, and also enable to buff it out at the same time without irritating your skin. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today. So let me just show you guys that. So I'm just going to tap the brush on the cap here. Fits perfectly on the cap, I have to say. And then I'm just going to remove a little bit of the excess here at the back of my hand. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap it very gently, like a cat paw kind of a motion onto the highest points of my cheeks. And I'm just going to buff it ever so slightly. And as you guys can see, it's already delivering a very nice diffused kind of a color into the cheeks, and it's really going very well with my skin tones, and it's really popping and enhancing my skin. Okay, so I'm just buffing the brush in circular motions, and I'm just putting the brush right here on top of my cheekbone, and I'm also trying to sculpt it to a certain degree. And just like that, you already guys can see on how well diffused and soft the blush looks. It's not overly shimmery, which I actually like. And I was a little bit worried about this, because when you read the ingredients list in the packaging, you can actually see that it has talc, it has silica, it has titanium dioxide, and it also has synthetic fluoroflogopite. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. And I was like, ooh, it might be a little bit too shimmery. But as you guys can see here, it's actually not. It has a very nice soft kind of a soft focus kind of a look. Very nice and very it's just very beautiful, and just has a way of reflecting the light back, which I actually love. And I'm also glad that this is not super like, you know, shimmery or like even like super soft focus, because if that was the case, that would be already like bordering into the Guerlain Meteorite section of like, you know, the cosmetic market. But this one is actually still very soft, and you still have that pigment that you need in a blush. So this is actually very, very beautiful. And also one other thing, as I've said before early in the video, you can actually build up the intensity of this, of like, you know, loose powder blushes, but you just have to do it slowly. Always approach makeup with caution, and you should always build to the intensity that you want or that you need. Okay, right, so I've just picked up more of the blush here on the brush, and I'm just going to add a hint more so that we can just see how intense it gets if you layer it nicely. Okay, and truthfully guys, I'm not even like, you know, pressing my brush really well into my cheeks. I'm just like, you know, very lightly dabbing it into my cheeks, because I'm just so scared that if I press the brush with the pigment into my cheeks, it's going to impart a very strong amount of color, and that's not the kind of blush that I usually like to wear on myself or even on my clients. Okay, and just like that, look how beautiful the blush is. Very, very pretty. Oh, and also one other thing, the blush still does have this, like, you know, Givenchy scent that's very similar to the Givenchy Libre powders. Very beautiful. Okay, so this is how Taffetas Rose looks on me. What do you guys think? Do you like it? I love it. Look how beautiful is that. Very, very beautiful. Very pretty. Okay, so now let us try the other color, and let's try the color Voile Corail now on this side of my face. And I'm gonna be using my newish brush in my collection, which is the Koyudo Kakishibuzome brush. And let's see how this will work. So the brush design on this is actually like, you know, more traditional, wherein it's flat and round, but I love this because it has a very nice airy brush head, and it also has some density to it and strength into the belly. So we need, again, a brush like this just to be able to blend out and lay color nicely on the cheeks. But with this one, it's going to be more targeted because it's not as round and as fluffy as, let's say, the Chikuhodo FO3 brush. Yeah, that's correct. So what I want to do first is that I actually want to transfer this to my palette, because I actually want to mix all the colors together, because I can see that there's a, like, you know, as I talked about it earlier, there are different tones of orange in this blush. So it's very important that you actually mix them together so that the color that is on your cheeks is gonna be well balanced. Okay, so this is how the color looks like now mixed in my palette, which is actually very, very pretty. And I've already picked up some of the color here, which is evident in the tips of the bristles. And I'm just going to, again, pound it very lightly on top of my cheekbones. And then I'm just going to blend it out. Ooh, can you see the impact of the color on my cheek already? It's very warm, it's very nice, and it's actually not as, you know, it doesn't pop the way that this pink blush does, but it actually is more cohesive with my skin tone, because after all, I still have yellow tones in my skin. It just looks like, you know, I got kissed by the sun with this color. It's actually very, very pretty. Okay, so I do have to say that a little really goes a long, long way with these Prisme Libre blushes from Givenchy. It's always best to start very light and be very light-handed with your blushes. Ooh, look at that. Very pretty. Very nice. See the different kind of feel these two blushes give to my skin. So this one is like, you know, very girly, very like, you know, playful. While this one is more like, you know, sun-kissed, very like, you know, almost quite natural, the way that I would flush naturally on my skin. Okay, so I'm finding that I think I overdid the color in this. Let me just try to blend out the edges here. And I'm just using the brush that I used to apply the foundation, so that we just have a much more blended out edge there. Okay, perfect. Look at that. Very beautiful, very pretty. I like that. Very, very nice. And you see, a little goes a long, long way. And again, as I've said, I do love that you don't get a lot of shimmer on this particular product, because after all, we already have like, a lot of highlighters in our collection. So at least you can use that in tandem with this if you want to add more shine and shimmer and a pop of color into your cheeks. Okay, so at this point, what I want to do is I want to show you guys that you can actually layer this blush with some cream blush. So what I have here is a cream blush, so it's an orangey blush, and this is from the brand OTG Easy Beauty. So this is a Filipino brand, and I'm sure you guys have seen people layering cream and powder blushes together, and that's what we're just going to do today. And I do have to say that if you have a cream blush, and if you want it to become more intense, you can actually add this on top of this blush, so that it intensifies a little bit, and it mixes very well with the pigment of the Givenchy Prisme Libre powders. And then what you want to do, so that this blush color maintains its integrity and its color on your skin, you pick up whatever blush product remains with the Givenchy Libre powder, and with the same brush that you use, you just layer it on top and you press it. So this kind of actually sets your cream blush, and this makes your cream blush last longer. Now the thing is, you can also use loose setting powder for this, but the problem that I have with that is it tones down the color of the cream blush, and sometimes it lightens it a bit, that if you are someone who has medium or deeper skin tones like I do, if you put loose powder on top of a cream blush like that, sometimes it makes the cream blush grayish, so it becomes ashy. So this is the reason why I love using loose blush powders, because they just act as a very nice vehicle in actually intensifying and setting your cream blushes without sacrificing the integrity of the color of the cream blush. So that's that. Look how pretty that is. Super nice. Again, very easy to layer, very soft, very, very pretty. Okay, so what I want to do now is I just want to remove this powder blush on this side first, because I just want to show you guys something else. And then I'm just going to reapply some of my foundation. So I'm just pressing the foundation into my skin. I'm not buffing it, mainly because we already have product in the other parts of my face. So just using a tapping motion will really help in creating a much more even finish, a nice coverage. Okay, perfect. So now what I actually want to do is, hang on. Okay, so before I set this side of my face again with powder, I actually want to show you guys how I use a liquid blush. So this is from NARS, this is in Dolce Vita, together with a loose blush, just so that it kind of sets the liquid blush. So it's like the same idea with a cream blush, but it's just a different formula. So I already have a little bit of the liquid blush here on this side of my palette, and with my Yachiyo brush, I'm just going to pick up some of it, and it has actually concentrated a lot of the product on the middle of the brush. I'm just going to buff it out a little bit here at the back of my hand, and I'm just going to press that here onto my cheeks. Now also, one other thing, by the way, if you are interested in layering blush and loose blush powders together, just make sure that they are within the same color tone, just so that you have a much more cohesive color application on your face. Okay, so just like that, the liquid blush is down, and then I always like to get the brush that I use for the foundation, and I just like to blend out the edges and to buff it out. Look how pretty that is. Look at that color from NARS, that Dolce Vita color. It's so beautiful. Okay, perfect. So what I want to do is I want to pick up the brush that I used earlier for the Taffetas Rose, and then I would set this liquid blush with this loose powder blush. And as you guys can see, they're almost in the same color tone, and they work very well and seamlessly together. Look at that. Look how pretty that is. Mm. Now this will really help your blush to stay on longer in your face. This really just helps the blush to melt into your skin and to maintain its very nice flush of color on your cheeks. Now the great thing about using pressed powder blushes or even loose powder blushes is that it's actually perfect to use during the summer season or when days like it's very humid like it is today, because it just really helps in absorbing the excess moisture that your skin is putting out, and that's actually great. I also want everything because it's very hot and humid, the natural oils of your skin do come out. You don't really need to use a lot of shimmery products, because the natural oils of your skin will just really find a way of actually melding together with the blush products that you're actually using, and you have this already very nice natural shine on your skin. But it's not like kilowatt kind of a highlight wherein it's very blinding, but it's more natural. And this is the kind of makeup look that I really like, wherein the makeup products that you are using is actually going very well with the natural oils of your skin, and in that way you really don't use a lot of products anymore because your skin is already doing that for you. As you guys can see, that it's very evident in my skin right now. All right, so yeah, and what else? I believe that's everything that I did yesterday for my vlog. So I hope that you guys find this interesting, and that's actually how I like to use loose powder blushes. And as I've said early in the video, I actually am in love with these Givenchy Prisme Libre blushes, and I believe these are one of also the best buys that I have purchases in terms of cosmetics this year. Alright, so yes, I believe that's my vlog for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and me showing you how I would use these where was that? Prisme Libre blushes from Givenchy. So if you have any more questions about all of the makeup products that I used today, please leave them down at the comments box and let's have a conversation about it. Alright? Okay, so I'm going to let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye!